Come to New York, place where dreams become reality and the poor become rich. Wall Street is just around the corner. Within seconds, you'll live a life of luxury. You can finally buy that big house you were eyeing just yesterday, perhaps marry someone you fancy. All that in the palms of your hands, right in the middle of New York.
But is that really the case? F. Scott Fitzgerald explores that very concept. Can one lower-class individual really achieve the American dream, climbing the social ladder up into the wealthy class? Well, if we were to generally describe his attitude towards the American dream, he would say it's unreasonable, as he sees the American dream as the incessant pursuit of wealth and class. In his book, The Great Gatsby, we're in the eyes of Nick Carraway, observing the occurrences that led to the tragedy of J. Gatsby. It is made apparent in the book that F. Scott Fitzgerald sees chasing the American dream as foolish and reckless. Though as cliche as it sounds, Fitzgerald depicted Gatsby as an overly optimistic and ambitious person who was in the end struck down due to his own carelessness. We see this in one of the passages in the book where Nick describes the joy in Gatsby.
He had been full of the idea for so long, dreamed it right through to the end, waited with his teeth set, so to speak, at an inconceivable pitch of intensity. Now, in reaction, he was running down like an overwound clock.
In this passage particularly, Fitzgerald shows the foolishness of Gatsby by using simile to describe how Gatsby is stuck in the past by comparing Gatsby to an overwound clock. The passage asserts that Gatsby doesn't really accept the reality of things, and in his mind, time really only moves when Daisy is around, which ultimately led him on this path of chasing after some girl who was already married, which indirectly caused his death. The passage also characterizes Gatsby as overly excited, optimistic, and filled to the brim with happiness, building up this idea that Gatsby is a proper man that has followed through with his dream and has finally achieved it. However, this is not exactly true, as Fitzgerald's characterization of Gatsby is shortly broken by his death in Chapter 8. This further supports the idea that Fitzgerald wants his reader to know the folly of chasing the American dream, as Gatsby, an individual who was seemingly happy, has his life ended at a young age due to his overzealousy in chasing the American dream. Equally important is the way Fitzgerald described the abstract feeling of happiness in this passage. Rather than simply choosing a simple, short, and concise way to describe Gatsby's happiness, Fitzgerald chooses to draw it out in a way that embellishes Gatsby's joy. But as readers, we know that in the end, J. Gatsby dies, essentially undermining the short-lived joy Gatsby experiences throughout the book. It shows that the happiness shown by Gatsby in this passage is a fantasy that Gatsby cannot achieve, affirming the idea that Fitzgerald wants the reader to see the American dream as something that is not worth the effort. Now, you might be wondering why this passage is so significant to the book. That's because this is a turning point in the book that eventually led to Gatsby's death. Him breaking the ice of Daisy made him much more assertive of his love for her. Rather than being confined in his home and throwing parties to try and get the attention of Daisy, after this point, Gatsby invites her over to his home to see the parties in person, and later on, he set his mind on confronting Tom about his love for Daisy. A scuffle that ended with Daisy running over Myrtle, leading to the murder of J. Gatsby.
He looked around wildly as if the past were lurking in the shadows of his house, just out of reach of his hands. "I'm going to fix everything just the way it was before," he said, nodding determinedly. "She'll see."
This passage compares similarly to the trend in the first passage that Gatsby is blinded by the past. The house mentioned in the passage symbolizes the lengths he would go to realize that dream. It is revealed later that the house was purchased by money made illegally. The same can be said for everything he owns, but Gatsby being blinded by his love for Daisy stops him from realizing what he is doing is morally wrong. This parallels with the primary passage, as the house is one of the ways Gatsby tries to grab the attention of Daisy to relive the past. However, at the same time, the house symbolizes his dreams and ambitions as being foolish. This is best shown by Daisy's remark that the house is mostly empty in the earlier chapter, which shows that Gatsby didn't buy the house at all for his own use, Rather, he is viewing this all as a show of materialism, class, and wealth, further showing that Fitzgerald wants to tell the reader that Gatsby is a fool who was blinded by his ambitions just like how he was blinded by his joy in the primary passage. Furthermore, the passage also characterizes Gatsby as being crazed about the past. This is revealed through Nick describing Gatsby as wild, allowing the reader to see Gatsby has no self-control, highlighting his enthusiasm in chasing after Daisy, representing a single-minded goal of reliving the past. This parallels Gatsby's jolliness when meeting Daisy in the first passage, leading Gatsby to having one foot in his grave. To review, F. Scott Fitzgerald purposefully made Gatsby flawed. He wants to reveal to the audience the endless pursuit of wealth, dubbed the American Dream, is a futile effort. So was Fitzgerald's assessment of the American Dream correct? Well, shortly following the prosperity of the Roaring Twenties, America experienced one of the greatest depressions of all time. But even then, many Americans still longed for the wealth and prosperity they experienced in the past. And even today, we beat on, boats against the current, borne back ceaselessly into the past.
Les rêves des amoureux sont comme le bon vin. Ils donnent de la joie ou bien du chagrin. Affaibli par la faim, je suis malheureux. Volant en chemin tout ce que je peux, car rien n'est gratuit dans la vie. L'espoir est un plat bien trop vite consommé, et à sauter les repas je suis habitué. Un voleur solitaire et triste à nourrir. Ah, je suis amer, je ne peux réussir, car rien n'est gratuit dans la vie. Jamais on ne me dira que la course aux étoiles, ça n'est pas pour moi. Laissez-moi vous émerveiller et prendre mon envol. Nous allons enfin nous régaler. La fête va enfin commencer. Sortez les bouteilles, fini les ennuis. Je dresse la table de ma nouvelle vie. Je suis heureux à l'idée de ce nouveau destin. Une vie à me cacher et puis libre enfin. Le festin est sur mon chemin. Une vie à me cacher et puis libre enfin. Le festin est sur mon chemin.